Hi there, my name's Elliot. I'm the founder of Contrast, an e-commerce marketing agency. And in today's video, we're going to delve into link building for e-commerce websites. So what we'll be looking at today is just an introduction into link building for e-commerce sites, specifically focusing around category pages. What are category pages and how do they work? And then obviously, more specifically, how to focus efforts for link building to these pages through digital PR campaigns, guest posting, creating discounts, and a great tactic like a bait and switch. So to begin with, let's just have a look at an introduction to link building and category pages. So link building obviously plays a massive role still in weighting how search performance does. So it's still a factor and a concept that you need to do and have an active focus on within your wider e-commerce strategy. So again, if you're able to get links through to like your category page, it's going to help bolster all of the products within that category. Being able to rank for more middle of the content funnel terms, bringing in more traffic into your site, hopefully making it into transactional sales for you to make more revenue. As a very basic concept, we all know the more links that link to your site, the more authority eventually your website will have. Again, we're looking for quality over quantity. If you get a link off the likes of a well-respected news publication, that's going to have more weight than a little local blogger. And that's kind of the thing that we're looking at this. Again, we're not looking for thousands of links, we're looking for handfuls of good quality ones, and bear that in mind when looking at these tactics and approaching them. If we have a quick look here, we're going to just do a little breakdown, a little case study, and we're going to have a look at the category for pure electric. What we can see here is that their rankings from when they first launched the page being like lower than 20th to then instantly being able to go into the top 3. And they were able to do this through a proactive approach to link building that obviously had a massive impact towards their rankings. And that's again what we can see here. Obviously there's a few fluctuations, but again, the SERP kind of like figures itself out and kind of pushes it forwards. But we can, as we say here, the category page was created at the end of March. They actively were building links, and we can see this from this referring domain chart that again the page was created. They get these influx of links of high authority ones. Again, we're not just talking about a lot of links, we're talking about a selective decent amount. So again, from the likes of MSN, Wired, these were in the publication's Best Buy guides, linking through to the category page, which is an amazing thing for them. Obviously, we don't know the commercial impact that this has had for Pure Electric. We're looking at this externally, but there are a few ways we could potentially work this out and reverse engineer it. That through Ahrefs, we can see that the total traffic to this category page, and then if we divide that via a basic, let's say even just 1% conversion rate, and then times that by an average order value of what one of the scooters is about 450, we can see that this is going to generate them about 73,000 in turnover per month. So again, these are conservative numbers, but it just on the high level surface gives you an idea of the value of ranking this category page for them. So again, this is just third-party data, so we have to take it with a pinch of salt, but these are all based on industry experience and metrics that we've seen at least to inform these as a decision. Again, if we have a look on the right side, we can see some of the links where they're coming through, which is what we've talked about, the MSN and the Wired. So what are category pages? As you probably already know, it's just within an e-commerce store, it's a collection around lots of different products that kind of ties them all together. In the case of Pure Electric, they had a category page for electric scooters, and then under that was nested all the electric scooter products individually and all the little individual product page. Again, we can see here in this example from a site architecture, sometimes we might have the main category and subcategories with products under, or we might just then go from a category to products. But it basically makes it easier for the user to find the products that they're looking for and navigate your e-commerce store, making the experience a lot easier and seamless for them. What do category pages look like and how they're structured? Again, we can see the example here from B&Q. As we looked at the site architecture previously, we can see that we've got some like main categories here with garden furniture, garden power tools, garden buildings, and then we've got some subcategories under them. Again, making it very easy for the end user to navigate to the actual page and products they're looking after and wanting to potentially buy. Again, reducing friction and making this a more seamless experience. This adds into, from an SEO perspective, from a site architecture, targeting terms and creating the pages around them is another good thing. So that's something you should at least keep in mind when doing site architecture. If we're going to be able to compete with the likes of giants like Amazon, we obviously need to create category pages and give them the time and attention that they deserve to hopefully make them rank and bring in high volume traffic for the head terms that they're going after, similarly like electric scooters. So to be able to do this, we need to just set them up very easily. So just following a nice simple URL structure, not nesting massive directories deep, as we can kind of see here in point 3. And then again, if we want to, we can have subcategories to these as well to be more specific with the product targeting we're doing. We're just making this very logical for the end user to be able to find. So all of this just makes, as we've already said, brings in more traffic and makes it a much pleasant experience for the end user. But obviously, onto the more important things now for why we're here. It's actually how do we build links to these pages. So one of the tactics we can look to use and leverage is digital PR campaigns. What we can see here is that Misguided ran a digital PR campaign on their dog sweaters, and these were the same as ones that they created for owners, so they could look the same. And this was done as a small stunt as well, but they were able to launch this, and they launched it out to the media, and it kind of picked up a little bit of traction. And to the category page for these, they were able to get 30 links from the likes of the Metro, People, and things like that. But not only did this achieve decent coverage from a links perspective, but it was also able to drive 80,000 visitors. Through this as a link building and digital PR campaign, we're not just thinking about the link building here. There are wider efforts that can be done. Again, through driving all this referral traffic, they will have generated sales off the back of this. As we know, they completely sold out of these through the information that they shared online. So don't just think of this as solely that you're just building links. There are wider things you can do. Through the links, you can drive referral traffic. With that referral traffic, you can generate sales. So definitely bear that in mind. This is just a basic digital PR campaign where they will have just created a simple press release, created a media list and sent it out, and that's how they'll have picked up the initial traction. From the traction they picked up within the press, it will then, as we can see, been covered on the likes of some of the Facebook and social sites, amplifying the kind of coverage. Obviously, with this campaign since being launched, we can then dig into this and see the after effects of what actually went on. Again, looking up this main search term of like dog jumpers, we can see that they've now jumped ahead of their main competitors of like the likes of Pets at Home and Amazon. So it really helped catapult them and put them into the position that they're looking to do. And again, this was a very simple concept and would have taken a lot of resources to implement. But again, the further ramifications around this is that it's had and led on to further sales in other collections that they had. So a very great example of a potential campaign that has been successful and how you might be able to do something similar yourself. Another potential tactic you can use is guest posting. I know this has probably been said many a time and you're probably sick of hearing it, but it does help a little bit, especially more in the early days. If you're a newer site, you want to just get every decent link you can and help bolster that. And there's a few ways that you can want to look to do that. Think about who do you have relationships with already and lean into them, because it's definitely able to take advantage of it. So again, one way to think about this, if you're a retailer, is you do have relationships with manufacturers and other brands. You might be able to, again, lean in and get onto their sites. That's something that we've definitely helped and done with other clients in the past, and it's worked quite well. Just helping build a handful of links to some of the category pages is just enough to help tip things in the direction that you're looking to do. You obviously have a look into where your competitors are getting their links from, and that will also help to identify a few other examples. Another way of doing this is just looking for blogs in your target area. Say, for instance, you were pure electric and you're targeting electric scooters. You could obviously have a look for people that talk about electric scooters or wider cycling, and then just outdoors if you were going slightly wider than that. So you're just trying to find blogs and uncover them, and then see if you can build up relationships with these bloggers or publications to be able to feature some content on their site. That's one way, but the main way is obviously you want easier wins, so really lean into the relationships you already have, and one way we've already mentioned is the manufacturers. So one thing we did is we created a quick list of one of our clients and all the suppliers and manufacturers they deal with, cross-referencing against like how well those sites are doing, so DR, total traffic, and then again some further off contact information. This gave us a quick way of prioritizing, a quick hit list to get in touch with these brands to be able to get featured on their sites. So this was quickly a quick way of building out a few links, because again, if you're a smaller local company, this is a simple trick to be able to help leverage it. It's just leading into the relationships that we've already mentioned that you've already got. So if you're wanting to uncover these further opportunities, you can use search operators to help uncover these. So like in parentheses, like write for us, guest post, submit an article. These will obviously be targeted by a lot of other people. So do bear that in mind when trying to get featured on these publications. That is obviously where people look down on this approach from a guest posting perspective. But what we did here is in parentheses, like write for us, and then the target sector, which in this case for this client was lawnmowers. And then obviously we're finding all the pages of sites that actually allow, for argument's sake, guest posts. And that's how you can quickly and easily uncover other opportunities to be able to go after and write and hopefully ultimately secure a little bit of coverage for your site. As you can see here, we did this, and as we've mentioned, we did this for the manufacturers. You can see here on the manufacturer's blog, we've got a blog post written and published, just an email script that you can outreach with to hopefully that you've already got this relationship with, to be able to hopefully secure that coverage. You're going to have a much higher success rate if there is a slightly built up relationship already than rather pitching completely cold. That just makes obviously your lives a lot easier. Another thing from doing a lot of analysis around the e-commerce space is that we see quite a lot of high quality links coming in from offer codes. And again, when we were analysing the Pure Electric e-commerce category page, we could see that, for argument's sake, you can see here, the Mirror has a link to this page, and you can get a deal to save some pennies off what would be a more expensive purchase. So again, if you do offer discount codes, this is a great way to build out some extra links, again targeting Black Friday and Boxing Day deals. If you looked at the majority of the links in their profile for their category page, it was very much weighted towards this tactic, and that's again just doing a lot of analysis against your competitors. You can see the approach that they've taken to build up these links. And from this, when we talk about digging into the analytics to see these links, again, we can see here for, this is for Evans Cycles to their mountain bikes, that again, they've got links from the Mirror, the Sun, Sports Weekly, and plenty of other really strong ones. And these are linked to their main category page from an all to do with discount codes. So it's definitely a tactic they've leveraged as well within that sector. One of the final tactics we'll look to talk about is a bait and switch. And all this pretty much means is having one bit of content, producing it, getting coverage, and then eventually redirecting it over to a different page. I've definitely known of other big household names doing this approach. The only thing you have to be wary of with this is obviously the topic that you're launching has to be very closely tied to the page where you're going to redirect it to. And obviously as well, with it being redirected, you will lose part of the link equity in doing that. So it really needs to be planned ahead of time and making sure that you can closely align the topic of what this campaign will be with the page where it's going to be redirected to get the most out of this as a campaign. And it's a great way of obviously getting a big influx of links quicker rather than later. It is obviously a slight manipulation, so do bear that in mind when you're doing it. For argument's sake, in this case, whether you're launching a new product or a blog post, again, these are the things you can redirect into the category page. So it's coming up with that campaign to begin with. And what we can see here is that here's an example of Auto Trader doing exactly this. They launched a new car fragrance, and did big outreach around that, and then eventually redirected that into the car deals page. The car perfume was around new car smell, so that was how they tried to bring it in as close as possible. And we can see how this plays out for them, is that they were able to generate over 200 links from publications like The Telegraph, Yahoo News, and many others. As we can see from the referring domain graph, they actually redirected the fragrance page in at the beginning of August, and that's where we can see the slow influx of these new referring domains being indexed into Ahrefs. But again, we can see the aim of this tactic and this campaign was to increase the visibility and rankings of this new car page. They were able to obviously get 200 links. Was it worth it to them? So we dug a little bit deeper into Ahrefs and Systrix to see what actually happened. And we can see for the primary term, new car deals, and secondary terms that they actually did increase their rankings into positions 1 to 3. Obviously that screenshot there from Ahrefs really goes into that a little bit deeper. The only thing to kind of mention is there were a few fluctuations between these rankings over the prior months. Obviously, they didn't get much of an increase on the head term side, moving up a position or 2, but the disparity between them and their competitors, from a links perspective, was quite high, so they've helped close this gap and obviously still made a little bit of an improvement on that side. If we have a quick look here, we can see this the graph for visibility from Systrix. They haven't really been able to pick anything up on the visibility side as an increase, but we have seen increases from a ranking perspective. Obviously, this is all third-party data and not accurate from Google Analytics or anything like that, because this is a competitor site that we're just having a look at, and we're able to analyze and try and reverse engineer and see the performance and make educated decisions on how we think things played out. But how do we think it would have gone, and how do we think it was actually successful? I do think it was successful from the amount of links they were able to get to, the long tail increases, and some of the small positions they were able to help increase on the primary head terms, to also closing that gap that if they were able to run a few more campaigns, that they then ultimately would be able to overtake the link volume of referring domains to their competitors. Yes, we might have wanted to see a slight increase in visibility, but again, that's a third-party metric, so we have to take it slightly with a pinch of salt. So obviously alluding to the fact that we might have expected a slight better performance from them, but if we actually dig into the competitors, as I've already alluded to, we can actually see here from the number of referring domains that they did have, that obviously they've managed to close the gap in with positions 1 and 2, that they've got about 10 to 20% more referring domains. They have, in running this campaign and redirecting these links, gained and closed that gap considerably, which has obviously helped them, and that's obviously where they've seen the biggest jump in performance. As an overall strategy, just the things that we've already mentioned about is just making sure that the actual campaign to begin with is closely tied to the actual product page. Again, remembering that with it being a redirect, it's not going to pass all the authority through, and just measuring it if you've got the internal metrics and tracking to be able to see actually how it does. But from our perspective, we think it was a worthwhile tactic that they have used and has helped long tail as well as some of the head terms. Quick bonus note, what we just tend to see as well is quite a lot of people that put a lot of time and effort into creating product pages and sometimes even building links to those, and then ultimately they either discontinue them or they are no longer available and not going to be for the foreseeable future. Instead of just deleting that page and that being it, make sure to redirect that page into either the closest relevant product page or up to the category page. That can be another way of helping bolster these links rather than just deprecating the page and that being the end of its life. There are still ways you can make that authority work for you, and that's just a very easy 301 redirect into the category page. It requires a lot of time and effort into how you approach this and the execution of it. Again, it is a trial and error to seeing what works and how the page responds in the SERPs. So definitely feel it out for that, and once something's working, do more of it ultimately, and double down. just don't get discouraged. It is an uphill battle, and it is one of the harder things within SEO that you can do. It is required, as we've talked about, from a perspective if you want to compete against some of the larger sites. So definitely take the time and energy to proactively think about this for your store. We are an e-commerce digital marketing agency and do this for other clients of ours. So if you've got any questions or want to have an informal chat, do reach out to us with the contact details below and we can have a conversation.